Is this a bad idea? Let's see. Is this gonna fall down? I shouldn't ask you guys, I'm the teacher. Okay. Oh, well, this is even dumber. What am I doing? No, this is good. This is good. Okay. Okay. So now at this point, they're recognizing that the national government does have a decent amount of power. Enough power. I'm just like laughing at this being here. Everything's fine, everything's good. But yeah, now this national government has new power and they kind of have to answer to the national government, but they're sharing power. They're sharing power at like a state and national government level, but the national government is supreme. We're gonna learn that. It's called the Supremacy Clause. Don't worry about it right now. But I forgot that I have to still use this. That's embarrassing. Okay, everything's fine. We have William Patterson. Do you guys know where he's from? Do you guys know where William Patterson's from? Yes, you do. He's from New Jersey. He is the author of the New Jersey Plan. And he is supported by small states. Next up, we have Edmund Randolph. This is the guy who proposes the Virginia Plan. Next up, we have, what's his name? Am I done? Roger Sherman! Okay, we have Roger Sherman next. Guys, do you know what Roger Sherman did? You guys know what Roger Sherman did? He's kind of like the goat of like the new government structure. Because he comes up with what? The Great Compromise. Thank you. Comes up with the Great Compromise. Are we strong? Okay. So let's dive into these plans. Let's see what the Virginia Plan is all about. Virginia Plan. Can somebody tell me something that they know about the Virginia Plan? Michaela.
Larger states supported.
Supported by larger states. Excellent. And we will get into why larger states supported it once we talk more about it. Colette? Excellent. It was a bicameral legislature. A bicameral legislature. What does that mean? What does that mean?
There's two parts of Congress.
Excellent. There are two houses in Congress. Two houses in Congress. What? Because, again, this is your James Madison, and this is your Edmund Randolph. So, this bicameral legislature would have an upper house and a lower house. The upper house, okay, the upper house would be selected by the state legislatures, meaning that they wouldn't be elected. The state legislatures would pick out who they wanted to be in this upper house. This changes eventually because obviously we elect our senators, like us, like we the people, but for a while, this is what it looked like. Secondly, the lower house would be elected by the people. Now girls, this is the concept that is shared by both by both James Madison, Edmund Randolph, and William Patterson. Previously, under the Articles of Confederation, there was one part to Congress, right? One branch, and it was the legislative branch. This time around, everybody agrees that they need three in order to keep everybody in check and make sure that nobody's using too much power, right? We decided to separate the government into three parts, into three branches. Name one of the branches. Or judicial. Judicial, excellent. So they want three branches. One of them is judicial. And girls, what makes up the judicial branch? What's the judicial branch? What is it? Give it a stat. Go ahead.
Judges.
Judges, right? It's the Supreme Court. That's a good way to remember it. The Supreme Court makes up the judicial branch, and you remember that because they're judges and JUD, right? Judicial. What's another part? What's another branch? Yeah.
Executive also, can I go to the bathroom?
Yes. Okay. Executive. The executive branch is in charge of executing the laws or enforcing the laws. Who works in the executive branch? The president, right? Right. E for enforce the laws, executive, president. And then what's the last piece? What's the last part?
Legislative.
Legislative branch, and they make the laws, guys, right? L for legislation, L for laws. They came up with this idea because under the Articles of Confederation, they only had the legislative branch. Now they've got all three of these. The only issue is now they're trying to organize the legislative branch. So Virginia wants bicameral legislature. They want an upper house that's selected by the state legislatures. And they want a lower house that's elected by the people with three branches of government. Let's see what else we have. This is a major important part. Membership in Congress, they wanted it to be based on what, guys? Go ahead, Michaela. Based on population, excellent. Why? Why, girls? Why did Virginia want representation to be based on population?
Because they're a bigger state.
Because they're a bigger state, so when it comes time to make decisions, they have more say. Why do they have more say in making decisions? Because they have more people serving in government. They have more representatives serving in government. Does that make sense? That's when little old New Jersey comes around and says, I don't think so, because little old New Jersey is a tiny state, and they want equal representation per state. Someone tell me about the New Jersey plan. Give me 1 second.
Please prime your option. The soccer and volleyball teams have away games today. Please dismiss these students at 2:35. Please dismiss the students from soccer and volleyball at 2:35. Thank you.
This is not fair. I get everybody back, I get excited, you all leave me. Is it 2:34 right now? New Jersey plan. High-speed edition. Just kidding, you can actually leave whenever you want, but New Jersey plan, this is your William Harrison, I'm an idiot. They called for a unicameral legislature, which means what? How many houses? One house, and it wanted equal representation per state. Meaning equal representation, so they wanted 1 vote per state. That's pretty much all you need to know about that. Okay? You guys are free to go, but I'm going to keep recording. I'm going to post this because we're going to talk about the Great Bay Compromise. All right? Good luck.
Thank you.
I know you're going to miss government class, but try to focus on your game. Not even a funny joke. It's like really not even a funny joke. Acknowledging that is fun. That's the New Jersey plan in all its glory. Oh, they also said they're on board with the 3 branches of government, though. They said, yeah, that's gotta happen. They said. Am I missing anything? I don't think I am. They both wanted strong central governments. New Jersey plan, everybody said no. Which makes sense. All right. So then Roger Sherman comes along and decides that he's going to morph these two plans together and come up with the Great Compromise. And this solves everybody's problems. Everybody who is a white landowning male's problems. Can you see me? Yeah. All right, Great Compromise, girls. This is Roger Sherman. Roger Sherman is from Connecticut, and he comes up with this brilliant idea. He said, let's combine these two plans in order to satisfy both the large states and the small states, because we know the New Jersey plan was appreciated by small states because they said, you know what, we're afraid of the idea. We're afraid of the idea of representation being based on population because we have a small state. Our voices are going to get drowned out, and we're not going to be heard, and we won't be part of government decisions. So they wanted equal representation to protect themselves. What Roger Sherman does is he tries to combine elements from both plans. This marker stinks. All right, we try to combine elements from both plans. What kind of legislature do they go with? Go ahead, Lauren.
Bicameral.
They go with the bicameral. Okay? And they decide to have a Senate, which is 2 per state. And then they also decide to have a House of Representatives. The House of Representatives, what's membership like in the House of Representatives?
Based on population.
It's based on population. Excellent. Okay? These are the 2 houses of Congress. This is what it looks like. I hope were we done? I hope we were, okay. This is what Congress looks like. I'm pretty sure I've drawn this for you guys before. Congress makes up the legislative branch. Okay. Congress has 2 houses, the upper house and the lower house, is what they call it. This is the Senate. We have 2 votes per state. Or 2 senators per state. Originally, they were decided by the House of Representatives. Originally, the House of Representatives got together and they were able to decide who they wanted to be the senators for each of their state. It's no longer like that. It's an actual election where the people choose. Both houses today are selected by the people. Back then, only the House of Representatives was selected by the people, and the senators were selected by the representatives. So ultimately, it was still considered democratic, but it was more indirect. This is your House of Representatives, where the number of representatives per state changes depending on the population. So this was based on population. Yep. This is based on population. Who likes the Senate? Who's happy that the Senate's around?
The smaller state.
The smaller states, because there's equal representation, right? So this satisfies states like New Jersey, whereas over here this is based off of population, and this satisfies states like Virginia. Right? Big states over here, small states over here. Now, to get to another important part before we go home today, what time is it? We have 5 minutes, right? That's just 4, Lauren. We have 4 minutes. And we're gonna do this, and it's not gonna take long because you guys already get it. We talked about the other day the compromises made in order to pass the Constitution. What did those compromises over slavery, what did they talk about? the compromises made over slavery? Michaela? The 3/5 compromise was one of them, right? They said, okay, bigger states like Virginia, they obviously have the white land-owning men, right? They count towards the population, but they also wanted to count their slave population towards their overall population. They wanted to do this so that they could get more representation in government. The more people in your state, the more representatives you get. So what they wanted to do was count the slave population as part of that to boost the number of representatives that they would get in their state. The North did not agree with this. The North said that's not right. You should not count your slave population towards your overall population because you're not actually representing them in government. They make up your population, but you're not representing them in government because they do not get to, vote in elections and things like that. You don't represent them. Regardless, because for whatever reason, they decide that this is okay, and they decide, okay, let's only count 3/5 of the slave population towards the state's overall population. So they decided that for the 3/5 compromise, these are compromises over slavery. They decide that the 3/5 compromise solves their problem. And they would decide that 3/5 of a state's slave population would count towards the state's overall population. And then this increases representation. Make sense? Okay. We have time for the last one? We do. I'm just like catching everything stupid I do on film today. The slave trade, right? It increases. If you think about it, at this point, now the Northerners are kind of thinking to themselves, okay, well, if the number of slaves increases in our country, the representation in the South also increases. So that was a debate. Will we continue the slave trade? And they decided to protect the slave trade for another 20 years. For another 20 years. That was the other compromise that they made over slavery. Does that make sense? We're all good? You guys will be having an assessment on Thursday at home. An assessment on Thursday at home. You can use your books, you can use your notes, but you should study beforehand because it's easier just to take it as you go, and you're not going to get everything done in time if you're constantly looking at your book. You will have an assessment on Thursday. It's going to be at home. It's going to be true, false, matching, multiple choice, and an essay. And it's going to be on chapter 1 and chapter 2 because we are done chapter 2. Right? With the exception of the ratification of the Bill of Rights, which is 1 page of notes. We are done, and so therefore, tomorrow, you will be tasked with checking out and working on a study guide. We're going to go over that study guide Wednesday, and then we're going to do an at-home assessment on Thursday. Fair enough? All right, girls. Enjoy the rest of your day.